Hello, BookTube. I went to the Brattle bookshop this morning, and a lot of you are not going to believe that. Because I spent all last week, every day, getting piles and piles of used books. It's true, I did, including a trip to the Brattle in which I got an enormous amount. 5 bags full of books. I think 3 of which, or 2 of which, were mine. Nevertheless, it was a beautiful, calm morning. All the elements were in place. It was a beautiful, calm morning. My little dog was okay with being left. There's a massive swat of rain coming that will prevent my going to the Brattle for a few days. I had a store credit, a couple of them, I think, thanks to a couple of you. All the elements were in place. So I went. And for those of you who are new to the channel, and because we've hit a subscriber milestone, I have to assume that some of you are new to the channel. The reason why a gigantic swath of rain would matter is because the Brattle used bookstore in downtown Boston has a sale lot next door with carts and shelves full of bargain books. $1, $3, and $5. And those are open to the elements. That lot is open to the elements. And keep in mind, I am saying lot. I don't mean that the store's front door has a barrow on one side and a barrow on the other of dollar books. No. No, the Brattle has thousands and thousands of bargain books next to the shop. I do most of my shopping out there when I go to the Brattle. I mostly am a creature of the sale lot. Actually, I would go there anyway, even if I didn't constantly find things, because I love communing with the books. I know that sounds really hippy-dippy, sounds very new agey, but I do. I love communing with them. I love their silent murmuring between each other and to me. I have had such a long history with almost all the books I see. Whether I know them or not, I still have a long history with them in terms of handing them to other people, selling them to other people, seeing them in shops all around Boston or Iowa or Austin. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's tremendously calming. It's tremendously pleasing in a way that has worked on me when almost nothing else has. There have been times when I was still all clawed up by grief, for instance, when I couldn't really put myself in human company. But I would go there. I would go to the Brattle sale lot as an intermediary step before I was ready for human company. But anyway, I went to the Brattle. I had a wonderful and also horrible trip there. The trip there is not long, but it was wonderful and horrible. It was wonderful because I smooched with a whole bunch of dogs that were out for their dog walking hour with their dog walkers. I think I stopped 4 different people. And in 2 of the cases, I knew exactly what I was going to hear. There was downtown with dog walkers, so I wasn't anybody I recognized. But in 2 cases, I knew exactly what I was going to hear. Because in those 2 cases, I knew already that the dogs don't like people. That they don't like strangers. They might like their owners, but they don't like people. So in both those cases, I knew what I was going to hear. I knew that their dog walker was going to say, "Oh, you must be the weekend dog walker," because he knows you, he likes you. Because of course the dogs did like me. We did vigorously face smooch and headbutt. And in those cases, I have found that rather than, start a conversation or anything like that, I just say, "Yep." I just say, "Yep, I'm the weekend dog walker." And if they find out otherwise, well, then they have a funny story. That was the wonderful thing, though, is smooching faces. And the not so wonderful thing, we can take the form of a public service announcement. Again, another public service announcement dealing with public transportation, the subways, the MBTA, affectionately known as the T, here in Boston. And we'll just put it very non-committally. If you are deliberately standing in the middle of a doorway of a crowded subway car, and you decide because you have just, you're just living in your own world, there's no one else in the world, you've crafted a world for yourself alone on social media, so there's no one else here, whatever the reason is. You're high on drugs, for instance. You've completely blitzed your mind on vaping, whatever the reason is. If you're standing in the doorway of a crowded subway car and it comes to a stop and you don't move, So that the either unspoken or in a couple of cases of my experience, spoken assumption is that everyone will either find another door or squeeze past you on either side. Expect to get hit. If you're standing in the doorway of a subway car and you don't move, expect to get hit. Expect to get jostled. Expect to get rammed into. And if in the course of, I don't even know, a hapless, clumsy old man happens to ram into you because he assumed you would get out of his way because you're standing in the middle of a GD doorway, if in the middle of that clumsy exchange his right knee comes up at 30 miles an hour straight into your crotch, well, these things happen. Really, you know who they don't happen to? People who get out of the way when they're standing in the middle of a doorway on a subway car. Nothing happens to them. But, you know, it's probably a good thing that you're now no longer going to reproduce. That's probably a very good thing. But anyway, that's the not so positive thing. Usually I give public transportation a mulligan. Usually. I figure it's usually been a while since I deal with crowds of people. I don't go to a job anymore. You got to build up your tolerance for such a thing. I woke up already negative, and I'm buying up my fuse. So I ordinarily I give public transportation a mulligan. I say, whatever you're doing wrong, blasting music, harassing people, singing to yourself, blocking the doorway, whatever you're doing, you get a mulligan, and then I will just move on with my day. And then the next time someone does it, they don't get a mulligan. And that may or may not have been true today. But anyway, the Brattle itself was wonderful. Just wonderful. And I got, you're not going to believe it, a pile of books. I got a pile of books that I want to show you. I should warn you ahead of time. I warned a certain little magnolia blossom of my acquaintance that this is, when I look at it, a very, very boy-centric book haul. And she mewed just a little because you know, the unspoken assumption here was that women are so much not only more interesting but more interesting to read. But I go where the carts take me. I did almost no shopping indoors today, and the carts are all random. They're only sorted by price, so I go where the carts take me. And I can't help but notice, looking at this pile, that this is a very dude bro pile. so let's go through it. We'll start with the mass market paperbacks, and the first 4 mass market paperbacks are for June on the Range, an upcoming epic booktube event in June created by Michael K. Vaughan, who really needs to make another event. He has made June on the Range, which is a mega success. He's made Rocket Summer, which is a success. Not as June on the Range is iconic now, but he's made Rocket Summer, which thousands of people take part in July, which is all about classic science fiction. And he's made Sumerian September, which is admittedly more of a niche thing that happens in September, where we read Conan in some way or another. But he really needs to make a pulp event. He's our prince of pulps. But I got some books for June on the Range. For instance, the first 2 follow a pattern that I mentioned the last time I got a Western at the Brattle, which is anthologies. I love anthologies anyway. I think they're just fantastic breeding grounds for learning about all sorts of things. Sometimes I will get an anthology, quite a few anthologies that I have here, where I'm just interested in how the editor is moving things around, because I already know everything that's in the anthology and everything written by the author that wrote what's in the anthology. But when it comes to things like mystery or thrillers or crime or Westerns, a lot of times, no. I get so many good leads from these things. I found 2 Western anthologies. I found this. Let's see. This is Popular Library Selected Western Stories, Exciting Yarns by Top-Notch Authors. And he has got his gun out, I presume. I mean, a lariat only goes so fast. I'm presuming the person who's trying to lariat him, to lasso him, is now dead. But who have we got here? Though civilization has entered into an atomic age marked by new miracles of science. I gotta know now. What are you saying? When were you saying that? 1949. And you know perfectly well that in 2300, they'll say the same thing about us. There remains one era in our history that holds an unrivaled affection of Americans everywhere. Those stormy decades when pioneers were carving an empire out of the untamed West live on in the countless books and stories written about the frontier. The cowboy, the sheriff, the hard rock miner are dear to the hearts of all. And so, in this collection of stories by such touted authors as Will James, B.M. Bauer, Owen Wister, and others, you will find all the thrills, color, and action of the West as it really was. And I'll have a small, obvious caveat here that dear in the hearts of us all. well, the empire you were carving out was owned by someone. It was owned by a whole bunch of people, and you exterminated them like they were rats. You poisoned their food. You poisoned their children and watch while they writhed on the ground. You penned them up in rocks in the desert. So they don't belong. And also, well, a lot of the times that you were busy doing that, back home you were keeping slaves. Let's not even talk about how you treated women. So, but nevertheless, you get the point. It's a rah-rah introduction. And so there's this thing. This is an introduction to all of these authors. So who have we got here? From 1949 with its miracles of science. And one thing I should say, one thing I noticed for a few of these paperbacks, I don't know if you can tell, but these are not going to survive. They will live they will go out in a blaze of glory, because they reached a genuine reader, a genuine enthusiastic reader who's not only going to read them enthusiastically, but who's going to read them eagerly during an event dedicated to celebrating them. I don't think you can come up with a better end to a book, but there's no way these things aren't going to end in June. Quite a few of what I got. So who we got? Frederick Bechtold, B.M. Bauer, Eugene Cunningham. Eugene Cunningham we saw last time, I think. Jackson Gregory, Will James, Henry Herbert Knibbs, Alan LeMay, he's familiar. William McLeod Rain, I've read a few of his. W.C. Tuttle, Owen Wister. So there are quite a few names in there that I don't know. All I have to do is somehow stop this thing from falling apart while I read it. I got another anthology volume. Oh no. Oh no. Is this the exact same thing? No, it's Popular Library still. Popular Book of Western Stories. No, this is Selected Western Stories, edited by Leo Margulies. And this is Popular Library Popular Book of Western Stories, also edited by Leo Margulies. So it's very similar. They're even crouched in the same way. But I don't think these are the same book. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It was dirt cheap. So who we got? Let's find out if it's the same book. It's got another forward by Leo Margulies. I wonder if it's the same book, the same forward. Oh, no. All right. This is different. So we have B.M. Bauer again, only a different story. Walt Coburn, Tom Gill, Ernest Haycock, James Hendricks, again with Alan LeMay, Clarence Mulford, I know him from June on the Range, William McLeod Rain, boy, he was popular. He was really popular. I think I have everything of his as ebooks. Charles Alden Seltzer and W.C. Tuttle. So some overlap in the names. It'd be very interesting to see what that's like. When did this one come out? Also in the age of modern scientific marvels? 1948. So clearly Margulies did these in a row. Probably he did more of them. So this one, he did this one, then he followed up with this one. A lot of similar authors. Probably he was a well-regarded Western editor. Then we have a book set in the west of Texas. And I got this not only because the west of Texas is a fascinating place. I don't at all advise you to go there, but it's a fascinating place. But also because it has a map back. The book has a map back, which are very common. I'm told by Nicole at the Brattle that these are very common for murder mysteries, to show you the apartment building or the housing complex or the country estate, so that you can always have in your mind where things are in relation to other things. I didn't think they happened in Westerns, but this one has one. And this is by Walker Thompson, and it is called West of Texas Law. What's going on that cover? I don't know. I'm assuming that it's part of the story. The map back does not allow for a description. The newspaper headline declared bluntly, either Longhorn or Kiowa McCord must die. Longhorn refers to a type of cattle, which you are herding to their death, and before you herd them to their death, you burn their skin with a brand, and then whip them and starve them and drive them all day long and all day night. And Kaio is a tribe of people that you exterminated, or if you didn't completely exterminate them, you whipped and beat their children and their women into pens in the desert, where they could eat cactuses and toadstools. But anyway, the hard-hitting young editor of the Longhorn Crusader, wish I were the editor of the Longhorn Crusader, Cole Kerrigan, has stuck his horns into something too big, too dangerous. The headline is a stick of dynamite, which threatens to blow the lid off the Texas Trail Town. Goodness gracious. In West Texas, where there's always trouble. And then finally, an ace double. I have a couple of ace double westerns. These were mass market paperbacks where you read one book, then you flip the book over and you read another one. I have a lot of science fiction ace doubles, but this is an ace double for westerns. So on one side we have, I had to tape the side of this thing because it was literally, this is literally falling apart, like a couple of these. One is by John Callahan, and it's called The Sidewinders. And there he is firing at those owl hoots who are chasing him from behind. And that, I think, is a woman. And then you flip it over like that, and we have Tom West. There is no way that I believe that's his real name. And here are these two facing each other in Vulture Valley. He owed allegiance to both the law and the lawless. And this, like the others, this is just falling apart. There's no way this is going to live. I will read it lovingly. I will care. I will not try to hurt it. But I think June on the Range is going to see a few of these books all the way down the Owl Hoot Trail, I'm afraid. So that was June on the Range. Then we have Murder Mysteries. I found this thing. I look for these green spine penguins. Whoever was editorially in charge of them almost never brought out a bad book. So Freeman Wills Croft is the only. He's in a ton of them. He's the only ones I can think of that I didn't enjoy because he's so mind-numbingly dull, and yet he was so popular. But this first one was by Andrew Taylor. It cannot be the Andrew Taylor that I knew. There's no chance of that. And it's called Caroline Minuscule. Very evocative cover there. And the back says, Caroline Minuscule is not a notorious femme fatale. It is the name of a style of medieval script. But when a leading authority on the script is murdered, it's apparent that more than scholarly interest is at stake here. The minute I read that line, when a leading authority on medieval script is murdered, I thought, Jason Harrigan, no, he's too young to go. For centuries, the Caroline has held a secret, the whereabouts of an extremely valuable cache of diamonds. William Dougal, a charming, unprincipled graduate student. Is there any other kind of graduate student other than unprincipled? Is there a principled graduate student anywhere? Is seduced by the prospect of easy money, innocently embarks on a treasure hunt. Other treasure seekers, however, have a different set of clues and play for a far more dangerous game. So it sounds like an amateur sleuth. And then there was this one. This is by Nicholas Blake. I don't know how many ebooks I have, Nicholas Blake. I don't know if I have any. But this is his book, Minute for Murder. And the cover is why I bought it. It was $1, but the cover is why I bought it. He had it coming to him. How is that for a cover? Wham! He's on the phone. Those of you who were born in the 21st century, this is a phone. When he is stabbed in the back, and he had it coming. And Nicholas Blake, I believe, is a pen name for one of the interminable Day-Lewis clan. I can't remember exactly which one of them, but the Day-Lewises and the Bonham Carters, I just think they're everywhere. I think it was a pen name, and I think he worked for like the Ministry of Information or something Orwellian like that during the war. And this is set in a version of that. And his opening remark here, this came out in 1947. And his opening remark is, the public will be relieved to know that the government department in which the action of this book takes place never did or could exist. I hereby assure my late colleagues, to whom the book is dedicated, that whereas every disagreeable, incompetent, flagitious, or homicidal type in it is a figment of my imagination, all the charming, efficient, and noble characters are drawn straight from life. I read the first chapter of this when I was, throwing elbows and swinging haymakers on my way to get back here to civilization. In other words, a quiet, empty room with a wonderful dog. I read the first chapter of this and utterly loved it. And now I'm racking my brains to remember if I've ever read Nicholas Blake before. But I'm completely sold. Unfortunately, March Mystery Madness is a long time away. But anyway, those were the mass market paperbacks. Then we have a trade paperback. I will soft announce this here, but I'm almost certain that this is our next read aloud on this channel. We just finished with Mr. Scarborough's Family by Anthony Trollope, and surely finding this was a nudge from the fates. And it's more Trollope. We're consorting with another lonely Trollope. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to think about it, and once I decide, I'll make a standalone video. But this is the old Dover classic of the Claverings. These back when Dover did these lovely editions, they did all of Trollope, almost all of Trollope, which have the original illustrations all throughout, the spot illustrations and the full page illustrations. And if I remember correctly, the Oxford World Classics, also did all of Trollope except his Life of Cicero. Nobody reprints his Life of Cicero, but I believe they did pretty much everything on his centenary. And if I remember correctly, their paperback of the Claverings does not have the illustrations, whereas a lot of these old Dover editions do. You'll know Dover now for Dover thrift editions, basically. Ugly paperback, least common denominator reprints of canonical classics that are in the common domain. But once upon a time, they were a thriving publisher that did a ton of interesting stuff. All of it still reprints, but really good. Really, stuff that you would really want. And some of the stuff that they reprinted in multiple volumes with maps, you won't find a popular version of it at all, other than the old Dover. And I think this is such a story. I admit, I'm thinking here of all the people. For those of you who are new, with this channel, we just recently did a read aloud on this channel of Mr. Scarborough's Family by Anthony Trollope. Where it's not just a read along or a buddy read where we read a chapter and then I talk about it. No, I'm reading you the book and we're talking about it. And I'm mainly thinking about all of you, the far, far greater number of you than I ever expected, who had never read Trollope before. I lost track of how many emails I've got from people saying, I would never have even considered reading Mr. Scarborough's Family. No matter where I saw it, no matter who. I would never have even considered that I might like it. And I loved it because of our read aloud. I loved it. It was a blast. I've lost track of how many people have emailed me saying that was the best reading experience that I've had in months. I'm mainly aiming this at a lot of you. A lot of you had never read Trollope before. A lot of you had certainly never read that book before. And you're going to love this. You are going to love this book. So I'm strongly considering, by the time I make the standalone video, I will know if we're going to just spend, the whole summer consorting with a lonely Trollope. Okay. Then this next one is written by a woman. It's In Your Garden by Vita Sackville West. She wrote a number of these little gardening books. This is not the most famous one. The most famous one is not listed here. Well, maybe this is I think this might have been the one that kicked it all off. She was an incredible gardening enthusiast and writes about just about as well as it can be written about, and I love that sort of thing. Years ago on this channel, I toyed with the idea of starting a garden there's a patch of ground that's just perfect for it. Actually, I'm surrounded by patches of ground that are just perfect for it. That would be, I know perfectly well that in the ground space that I have available, so there's space next to a long stone wall that almost never gets direct sunlight. There's space underneath the windows that gets a lot of direct sunlight, and everything in between. I know perfectly well from what I've read about gardening since then that I have enough space here, even here where there isn't a lot of space, there isn't a lot of grounds. I have enough space here to grow all the vegetables that I would need in a whole year. Season by season, all types of different vegetables. And I feel certain that a lot of people could do that. Unless you just live in an apartment building and none of the grounds are your own. You can't do anything with the grounds on your own. If that's true, then no. But if you have just an ordinary lawn in a suburban house, then you have, I don't know what your homeowner association would say, you should tell them to go F themselves, no matter what they have to say. But you could, in that lawn, grow a gigantic amount of vegetables. And I briefly toyed with the idea of growing a garden. I eventually decided that it involved too much stooping. And so I gave it up. But by the time I gave it up, I had fallen in love with gardening literature. I read enormous amount. I do that with any subject. When I'm starting to ease my way into it, I read about it first. So I read an enormous amount of gardening literature. I love Vita Sackville West on gardening. There are a whole bunch of other authors. I have a whole shelf of gardening books. And I didn't have this one. This is in perfect condition, so I just grabbed it. Especially since my interest in gardening has revived. It turns out there's a kind of gardening you can do that does not involve stooping, and that's indoor gardening. Now, I have barely put my toe in the water. I have 3 plants that I have not succeeded in killing. They are actually alive and well. One of them I even think I might understand. Just a bit, that I might understand, on a gut level, what it needs and doesn't need. And if I understand that little plant, I certainly understand it a lot better than its namesake, if you know what I mean. Women, up top. Anyway, indoor gardening. And if I can do indoor gardening, I have one shelf that's full of plants. If I can do indoor gardening for just plants that don't seem to die, then surely with a little more effort, I could do indoor gardening for vegetables. I could do container gardening. Wouldn't that be a brave new world? That would be. Okay, well, we're done with female authors. So let's get deep into deep, gnarly, muscular history, shall we? This next one, I saw it. It's bigger. It's beautifully illustrated, and I almost passed on it simply for the author's name. It's Ancient Greek Athletics by Stephen Miller. But it's not one of the foremost fascists, one of the foremost Nazis who actually runs this country now, is named Stephen Miller. A thoroughly evil man. But this isn't him, and this is a really beautifully illustrated look at what athletics meant to the ancient Greeks, and of course it meant a lot to them. So, this is from Yale, but this must have come out before I was back in the reviewing game, because I don't think I ever saw this. When did you come out? 2004, yeah. So I would have got this from Yale. I would have shown it on this channel. I would probably have written about it. There is a gorgeous statue there that is not a model. That is the Greek statue, especially by Praxiteles, was so wonderful. Then we have the American Civil War. I have had this book probably 5 times in the course of this channel and got rid of it every time. Every time one of you puts your hand up and says, "Oh, I want a copy of that," I'm going to resolutely ignore that this time around. This is by Stephen Woodworth, and it is Nothing But Victory. It's his book on the Army of the Tennessee, under the command of first General Grant and then General Sherman, going to all sorts of major battles and major theaters in the American Civil War. I love this book. I think it's terrific. And I guess I praise it too highly, because every time I get a copy, I send it off to somebody. But I found a copy with the plastic covering on it already, so I grabbed it. Then The American Revolution, from Burke Davis, who was a gentleman and a scholar, a wonderful full-time writer. This is his book from 1970, the campaign that won America. His book on the Yorktown campaign, the whole of the prelude to it, and then what happened during those days at Yorktown when eventually Cornwallis surrendered to the American forces. Now, he wouldn't have surrendered if it hadn't been for international forces. If the forces of King George III and Great Britain had not had their asterisks up their heads up their asteroids, this would have gone very differently. The whole reason that Yorktown worked was because of a French sailing commander, the Comte, the Comte de Strange. It wouldn't have worked. What if we have his picture in here? I haven't even looked at this yet to see. There's Alexander Hamilton, and there's Baron von Steuben. There's Joe Spivey on Washington's staff. Oh my, that leaf bower is getting closer, isn't it? Oh, you're not telling me you have all these people and not the Comte de Grasse, the guy who actually made the victory possible. Oh, you are. You're just going to show me Washington. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. The French Navy made this possible in the Battle of Chesapeake. But I know this author's work really well, and I like it, so I grabbed this. And then this one by John Alden. This is The History of the American Revolution. He wrote another book very similar to this, and a lot of other books on the American Revolution. This was the only one that was there. I'll gladly take it because he's really good at writing about the American Revolution. And of course, you know my ongoing project to read every one-volume history of the Revolution. No. I could easily do that. I have quite a few of them. But I remember really enjoying this. God, I haven't read this since hardcovers were $10. This came out in 1969. I would have read it in the 70s. But now I have a copy. Wasn't about to turn it down. Then a relatively new book. This came out last year. Didn't it? 2024, and I only got the e-copy from the American publisher. And I'm not gonna do anything with your book, no matter how much you want me to. I'm not going to do anything with your book if you aren't going to send me your book. If I ask you once, that's fine. If I ask you more than once and you don't do it, I'm largely going to ignore your book, and I did. But I really enjoyed it. And I found a copy today at the Brattle. All hard feelings are over. So I grabbed Craig Brown's book, A Voyage Around the Queen, which is terrific. It's a big fat thing, but it is one of the most gripping and odd biographies of Queen Elizabeth II. Almost unique in that regard. He wrote, it's right on the cover here, 99 Glimpses of Princess Margaret. That is it's such a weird book. It's such a good book. And this is every bit the same way. It's every bit as odd and iconoclastic an approach to the subject. So now I have a copy. I'll probably reread this summer, now that I'm not stewing with discontent. And finally, probably the find of the day, Mark Richardson showed me a picture of this. Oh God, it must have been a month ago. He found this, and I he squealed about it when he found it. I squealed when I saw the picture. And in my mind, I was thinking the Brattle will provide. Sooner or later, I will see it at the shop. And I saw it today, and I squealed. It was at the bottom of a pile of books on the pricing table, and I asked, could you get that for me? Because if I grabbed it, I would have caused 1,000 books to fall down. And it's this. It's a beautiful hardcover of the Maritime History of Massachusetts by Samuel Eliot Morison. I've only ever had this as trade paperbacks, and I love it so much. I go back to it so much that it falls apart. This is modular history. Every chapter is basically a thing on its own. It's not really a narrative so much as it is a history by vignette. But Morison is so good. And the hardcover has something that the paperbacks don't have, which is the color stuff. So, I mean, when I said to myself, when I saw Mark's picture and I said to myself, the Brattle will provide, I thought, years. I didn't think it would happen right away. So I'm very happy about that. Very happy. And that is it. That is a Brattle mail haul, a book haul, before it rains. It's supposed to rain for another 5 days. And the carts that I bought most of these things at are outside, so they get tarped over. And my reason for going to the Brattle drops by 2/3. So I thought I would go today, even though I just got 200 used books. Well, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, right? So I now have 210 used books, and these things I'm going to use them. I mean, the paperbacks, those Western things, I'm going to read them in just 2 weeks. So anyway, we have the Maritime History of Massachusetts. I have long since stopped full-throatedly recommending Samuel Eliot Morison to all of you. I figure you all know that. You all know that I love him. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't think that way, because new people come to our channels all the time. He's great. It's entirely out of print, but he's well worth your time. Then Voyage Around the Queen. Q, Voyage Around the Queen. We have A History of the American Revolution. We have the campaign that won America, so the conclusion of the American Revolution, 1781. We have Nothing But Victory, about the Army of the Tennessee. We have Ancient Greek Athletics by patriotic Stephen Miller. We have In Your Garden by Vita Sackville West, who again is a woman. She's my token woman. We have The Claverings by Anthony Trollope in this old illustrated Dover trade. And here, let me put those aside. Then we have all these mass market paperbacks. I can't get over this cover. I hope this is one of the pictures that YouTube offers for the thumbnail. Well, I can't get over this cover. Then Caroline Minuscule. I'll have to check to make sure that Jason Harrigan is alive and well. And then a passel of Westerns. Boy, I can't win for losing with all this background noise. It was as quiet as a church here for the last 6 hours. But I try to make a video, and A, Frida suddenly decides to turn on the cute, and B, I get background noise. But anyway, I've got 2 Western anthologies in consecutive years put together by the same man, and then an ace double of Westerns, and a Western from West Texas with a Mapback. So these, plus I've got a bunch of other Westerns that I haven't read, plus a million ebooks. I'm pretty much set for June on the Range. I don't know if I'll buy any other Westerns between now and then. So anyway, this is also, of course, a small gesture, a small little rearguard firing for the Hall Wars, which I believe are winding down as you all realize how thoroughly outclassed you are. I'm hoping so, anyway. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. I'm going to dive right into these things, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.